The Declaration. The galaxy had enjoyed 3 millennia of peace, 3,000 years without major conflict between spacefaring civilizations. The Galactic Concord, formed after the last Great War, had maintained stability through careful diplomacy and mutual economic interests. Hundreds of species lived and traded together in relative harmony across thousands of star systems. Humanity, a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, occupied just 12 systems in the Orion Spur, a backwater region far from the glittering political centers of galactic power. Humans were seen as curiosities, adaptable and clever, but ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme. Most established species regarded them with mild amusement or indifference. The Krelnar Empire had ruled the galactic core for 10,000 years. Their towering four-armed forms and crystalline exoskeletons had been the image of authority since before many current species had achieved spaceflight. They were bureaucratic, methodical, and utterly convinced of their superiority. They rarely concerned themselves with the affairs of frontier worlds. Until now. The transmission arrived on Earth without warning, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on the planet. The holographic image of High Commander Zex-Karoth, his crystalline form shimmering in blue light, towered above city centers worldwide. People of Earth and her colonies, the alien's multi-tone voice reverberated. The Supreme Council of the Krelnar Empire has determined your continued independence represents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. You will surrender your sovereignty within one standard rotation, or face immediate military action. The message ended abruptly, leaving stunned silence in its wake. On the orbiting United Earth Defense Station, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the recording for the 4th time, her expression unreadable. "They can't be serious," General Okafor said beside her. "We've done nothing to provoke this." "Perhaps that's exactly why," Chen replied. "We've done nothing at all in their eyes. We're insignificant." "Admiral," a communications officer interrupted. "The Security Council is assembling. They're requesting your presence." The emergency session of Earth's Security Council was chaotic. Representatives from all 12 human colonies argued over screens, their faces showing various degrees of panic. "The Krelnars have over 10,000 warships," the Mars representative shouted. "We barely have 200. Their weaponry outclasses ours by centuries," added another. President Ileana Reyes raised her hand for silence. At 62, she had led humanity through a decade of unprecedented expansion and prosperity. Her calm demeanor now seemed jarringly out of place. "Admiral Chen," she said, "your assessment." Chen stepped forward, her military uniform crisp and impeccable. "Madam President, the Krelnar threat is real. Their military capacity exceeds our visible defenses many times over." "Visible defenses," Reyes repeated meaningfully. A knowing look passed between them. "It's time then," Chen said quietly. Reyes nodded. "Initiate protocol, sleeping giant." The Mars representative leaned forward. "What's protocol, sleeping giant?" Reyes smiled thinly. "Insurance." The Krelnar invasion fleet arrived precisely when promised, 32 hours after their ultimatum. 1,000 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation near Luna's orbit. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering. Crystalline spires jutting from diamond-shaped hulls, pulsing with blue energy. The smallest was twice the size of Earth's largest battleship. From the command throne of his flagship, High Commander Zex-Karoth observed the primitive defenses arrayed against him. A mere 178 human vessels formed a protective screen around their homeworld. Their design was brutalist and inelegant, blocky metallic constructions with visible weapon emplacements and engine nacelles. "Pathetic," he commented to his second-in-command. "They didn't even attempt to evacuate their leadership." "As expected, High Commander," replied Sub-Commander Vextoral. "The psychological profile indicates humans are emotionally attached to their origin planet. They will sacrifice themselves to protect it." "A useless sentiment," Zex-Karoth said dismissively. "Begin the standard approach. Disable their larger vessels first, then target planetary defense systems. By your will, Vex Toral bowed, his crystalline form catching the light. Though, High Commander, I find it curious they seem so calm. Our sensors detect no mass panic on the surface. Zex Karoth waved a dismissive hand. Primitive species often freeze in terror. Proceed with the attack. The Kroner fleet moved with perfect synchronization, breaking into 3 attack wings. Energy weapons charge, glowing with blue-white intensity against the blackness of space. Aboard the UES Defiant, Admiral Chen watched the approaching fleet with steady eyes. They've taken the bait, she said quietly. All vessels maintain position. Weapons tight. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, the enemy will be in firing range in 30 seconds. Good, Chen nodded. Activate Wihisphere protocol. Throughout the human fleet, hidden systems came online. Nothing visible changed, but deep within each ship, quantum processors initialized sequences that had never been deployed outside of secret testing facilities. The Kroner fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced across space toward the human defenders. On the Defiance bridge, no one flinched. The energy beams struck and vanished, absorbed completely by invisible fields surrounding each human vessel. On the Kroner flagship, confusion reigned. Weapons malfunction, Zex Karoth demanded. No, High Commander, a sensor officer replied, checking readings frantically. Our weapons fired at full capacity. The energy simply disappeared. Impossible, Zex Karoth roared. Fire again. All batteries. The second volley produced identical results. Not a single human ship showed damage. In the stunned silence that followed, a communication request from the human flagship flashed on the Kroner command screen. Accept it, Zex Karoth ordered, his voice tight with anger. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. Unlike the fearful submission Zex Karoth expected, she wore an expression that the Kroner's cultural database would later identify as a smirk. High Commander, Chen said pleasantly, I believe there's been a misunderstanding about humanity's capabilities. Your primitive deception will not save you, Zex Karoth snarled. Whatever technology you've deployed isn't the issue, Chen interrupted. The issue is your profound miscalculation. You see, 3,000 years of peace doesn't mean 3,000 years of inactivity. She leaned forward, her smirk widening slightly. While the galaxy enjoyed its peace, humanity prepared for war. Not because we wanted it, but because we've learned from our own bloody history that peace is preserved through strength. On cue, space rippled around the Kroner fleet as hundreds of distortion fields activated simultaneously. Where there had been empty vacuum moments before, now floated sleek black vessels of unmistakably human design, but unlike anything seen publicly. Allow me to introduce the Phantom Fleet, Chen said. 2,000 stealth battleships that have never appeared in any registry, built in secret shipyards throughout our territory. Zex Karoth's crystalline face couldn't show emotion, but his voice betrayed his shock. Impossible. Such deception is perfectly legal, Chen finished. No Galactic Concord Treaty prohibits maintaining undeclared defense forces. We checked very carefully. The new human vessels moved with impossible speed, surrounding the Kroner fleet in a perfect containment formation. You should also know, Chen continued conversationally, that we've been jamming your communications since you arrived. Your empire has no idea what's happening here. For the first time in his 200-year military career, High Commander Zex Karoth felt something uncomfortably close to fear. What do you want? He asked. Chen's expression hardened. First, you will withdraw your fleet from Earth space immediately. And if I refuse? Zex Karoth challenged, though with less conviction. Chen didn't answer verbally. Instead, she nodded to someone off-screen. One of the smallest Krelnar support vessels suddenly shuddered, its systems going dark. Before the Krelnar command could react, the disabled ship began to move, pulled by some invisible force toward one of the new human vessels. The black ship's hull opened like a monstrous maw, swallowing the Krellner vessel whole. 30 seconds later, a compressed cube of metal and crystal, all that remained of the support ship, was ejected into space. That technology, Chen said calmly, is called the Leviathan system. It disables and compresses enemy vessels without harming organic life forms. Your crew from that ship are now in comfortable detention cells aboard our vessel. She leaned back in her command chair. We developed it specifically for situations like this, where an aggressor needs to be neutralized without unnecessary casualties. This is an act of war, Zexkaroth managed. Chen's eyebrow raised. I believe you declared war on us, High Commander. We're simply responding. Around the Krellnar fleet, hundreds of the black human ships activated targeting systems. Warning indicators flashed across every Krellnar console. You have 2 minutes to order your fleet to stand down, Chen said, or we'll be forced to demonstrate more of humanity's primitive capabilities. For a long, tense moment, no one spoke. Finally, Zexkaroth gave a subtle gesture to his communications officer. All vessels, power down weapons, he ordered. Maintain position. Chen nodded approvingly. A wise decision. Now let's discuss the terms of your withdrawal and subsequent diplomatic relations. I believe you'll find humans are quite reasonable when not being threatened with extinction. As the human and Krellnar leaders began their impromptu negotiations, word spread throughout both fleets. The humans had achieved the impossible. They had called the bluff of the mighty Krellnar Empire and emerged not just unscathed, but dominant. And they had done it with a smirk. In the observation lounge of the Defiant, President Reyes watched the standoff with satisfaction. 3,000 years, she murmured to herself. 3,000 years of preparation, hiding our true capabilities, learning from every other species while appearing harmless. General Okafor joined her at the viewport. Do you think they'll retaliate once they regroup? Reyes shook her head. Not when they learn what else we're hiding. You mean Project Prometheus. Among others, Reyes smiled. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's that we never, ever stop planning for the worst. As Earth turned peacefully below them, the human leaders watched the beginning of a new era for their species, one where humanity would no longer be underestimated. The revelation. The next 48 hours were the most humiliating of High Commander Zexkaroth's distinguished career. His mighty invasion force, the pride of the Krellnar Empire, remained surrounded by the mysterious human phantom fleet. His communications with the homeworld were restricted to diplomatic channels only, preventing him from requesting reinforcements or accurately reporting the situation. This is intolerable, he hissed to his senior staff in the flagship's strategy chamber. A species with barely 5 centuries of spaceflight technology does not simply develop stealth capabilities that can fool our sensors. The evidence suggests otherwise, High Commander. Sub-Commander Vex Toro replied cautiously. Our analysis of their phantom vessels indicates quantum-entangled reflective hulls, technology we theorized but never successfully implemented. And these absorption fields that neutralized our weapons, Zexkaroth demanded. The science officer's crystalline appendages clicked nervously. Unknown principles, High Commander. The energy simply vanishes. Our best hypothesis involves extra-dimensional displacement. Zexkaroth slammed a fist onto the crystalline table. Why was there no intelligence on these capabilities? How did they hide this from our networks? No one had an answer. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defiant, Admiral Chen was conducting a very different meeting. Seated across from her was President Reyes, General Okafor, and a holographic projection of Dr. Eliza Makoto, Director of Earth's Advanced Defense Research Division. Their confusion is exactly what we anticipated, Dr. Makoto reported, her hologram flickering slightly. The Krellner strategic doctrine relies heavily on perfect intelligence. The unknown terrifies them. Then we should terrify them further, General Okafor suggested. Reveal Project Prometheus now. President Ray shook her head. Not yet. We need to understand their motivations first. 3,000 years of peace broken on a whim. It doesn't add up. Perhaps not a whim, Admiral Chen said thoughtfully. Our intelligence suggests the Krelnar Empire has internal problems. Resource depletion, factional disputes. A quick victory over an emerging threat would rally their population. Classic diversionary tactic, Okafor nodded. Create an external enemy to unify internal divisions. Then we need to demonstrate that we're not just capable of defending ourselves, Rice decided, but that we're more valuable as allies than as conquered territory. She turned to Dr. Makoto. Is EMPATH ready? The scientist smiled. Absolutely, Madam President. The cultural and psychological profiles are comprehensive. Good. Rice nodded. Begin Phase 2. On the Krelnar flagship, High Commander Zex Karoth received notification of another communication request from the humans. When he accepted, however, the face that appeared wasn't Admiral Chen. Instead, a different human. Older, dark-skinned, with intricate patterns shaved into his short white hair, filled the screen. High Commander, the human said in perfect Krelnar language, including the subtle multitonal inflections that most non-Krelnars couldn't even hear, let alone reproduce. I am Cultural Attaché Quaim Oladel. I've been assigned to facilitate our discussions. Zex Karoth felt his crystalline plates shifting in surprise. You speak our language. Properly. Oladel inclined his head respectfully. I've specialized in Krelnar culture and communication for 40 years. Your language's beauty and complexity deserves proper respect. For the first time since the confrontation began, Zex Karoth felt slightly off balance. What do you want? To understand, Oladel replied simply. 3 millennia of peace, yet you chose to attack us. We believe your empire faces challenges that perhaps we could help with, rather than engaging in unnecessary conflict. Help? You? Zex Karoth's tone was dismissive, but there was uncertainty beneath it. Oladel smiled gently. High Commander, I know that the northeastern quadrant of your empire has suffered severe resource depletion. Your synthetic crystal production is down 30% in the last century. What if I told you that human chemistry has developed a process to accelerate crystal growth by 600% using common elements? Zex Karoth froze. That information was highly classified within the Empire. How could they possibly know? I also know, Oladel continued smoothly, that the Blue Shard faction has been arguing for aggressive expansion, while the traditional Symmetry faction advocates technological development instead. You're caught between these powerful forces. Now Zex Karoth was truly alarmed. These were internal political divisions never discussed with outsiders. What else do you know? He demanded. Everything, High Commander, Oladel said gently. We've been studying you for centuries, just as we've studied every major species, not for conquest, but for understanding. The human touched a control, and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed the complete internal structure of Krelnar society. Political factions, resource flows, cultural tensions, even religious undercurrents. This is Project EMPATH, Oladel explained. Cultural, sociological, psychological, and economic modeling of every major galactic civilization. We've been refining it for over 1,000 years. Zex Karoth stared at the display in stunned silence. The model was more comprehensive than anything the Krelnar's own analysts had compiled. Why? He finally asked. Why study us so thoroughly while remaining in your isolated sector? Because knowledge is our true strength, Oladel answered. Let me show you something else. The hologram shifted to display a timeline of human history, thousands of years of war, genocide, environmental catastrophe, and near-extinction events. This is our history, Oladel said solemnly. While most species evolved through cooperation, humans evolved through conflict. For most of our existence, we fought ourselves more brutally than any outside force ever could. The timeline continued, showing humanity's eventual unification, their expansion to the stars, and their quiet integration into galactic society. 3,000 years ago, when the Galactic Concord established peace, we made a decision. Oladel continued. Never again would we be unprepared. Not because we wanted war, but because we understood it better than anyone. He leaned forward, his expression intense. We know war, High Commander. We know its patterns, its rhythms, its costs. And we know that the strongest defense isn't weaponry. It's understanding your potential adversaries so well that conflict becomes unnecessary. Zex-Kuroth was silent for a long moment. These models, how accurate are they? Accurate enough that we predicted your attack 3 years ago, Oladel said. We knew which faction would push for it, which resources you would target, even which commanders would likely be assigned. On the Defiance Bridge, President Reyes watched the exchange with Admiral Chen. He's hooked, Chen observed. Cultural attaché Oladel is as effective as ever. Reyes nodded. The first lesson of human diplomacy, show them you understand their problems better than they do. And the second lesson, Chen asked, show them you can solve those problems. Reyes smiled. Time for Project Prometheus. Back in the communication, Oladel was explaining something that made Zex-Kuroth's crystalline structure vibrate with interest. Our terraforming technology could revitalize your depleted worlds within a decade, the human said. And our matter conversion systems could resolve your resource shortages permanently. If your technology is so advanced, Zex-Kuroth challenged, why maintain the pretense of being a minor power? Why not dominate? Because we learned the hardest way possible that domination leads to resistance, and resistance leads to destruction. Oladel answered, we prefer partnership. He touched another control, and a new hologram appeared, a massive orbital structure unlike anything Zex-Kuroth had ever seen. This is Prometheus Station, Oladel said, currently in orbit around Jupiter, hidden by the same technology that concealed our Phantom fleet. It's a matter conversion facility that can transform any element into any other. Zex-Kuroth's scientific training told him this was impossible, yet the detailed schematics suggested otherwise. Your resource wars would end overnight, Oladel continued. All we ask in return is peace and open scientific exchange. Why would you share such technology? Zex-Kuroth asked suspiciously. Because isolation breeds fear, and fear breeds conflict, Oladel replied. We've learned that true security comes from interdependence, not domination. He paused, then added, we're extending this offer to you first, High Commander. Not despite your aggression, but because of it. You've shown us who truly holds power in the Krelmar Empire. It was a masterful stroke of diplomacy, acknowledging Zex-Kuroth's authority while appealing to his ambition. 3 days later, the Krelmar invasion fleet departed Earth space, not in defeat, but as diplomatic escorts for the first official human delegation to the Krelmar homeworld. Aboard the Defiant, Admiral Chen watched them go with mixed feelings. Do you think it will hold? She asked President Reyes. The alliance? Reyes considered. Yes, once they verify our technology works. Zex-Kuroth is ambitious, but not foolish. Access to Prometheus will cement his position in their hierarchy, and the revelation of our true capabilities to the wider galaxy. Reyes smiled thinly. Already happening. Every diplomatic channel is buzzing with the news that the quiet humans have been hiding planet-destroying weapons and economy-transforming technology for centuries. We don't actually have planet-destroying weapons, Chen pointed out. No, Reyes agreed, but the galaxy doesn't know that. The myth will protect us better than actual weapons ever could. General Okafor joined them, tablet in hand. Reports from our intelligence network. The Voss hegemony has withdrawn their planned incursion into our colony on Epsilon Eridani. The Jaxiri Consortium is requesting technological exchange talks. Even the Zithian Collective is reaching out. Fear and respect, Chen mused. Powerful motivators. Knowledge and understanding, Reyes corrected. Those are our true weapons. 6 months later, the first Prometheus-class matter conversion station was installed in Krelmar space. True to humanity's promise, it began transforming asteroids into desperately needed resources for the Empire. The internal political pressure that had pushed for war dissipated almost overnight. In a private meeting chamber on the Krelmar homeworld, High Commander Zex Karoth, now elevated to the rank of Imperial Overseer, met with the human ambassador. "Your strategy was brilliant," he admitted. "You knew we were testing you." The ambassador, Dr. Eliza Makoto, smiled. "We've been anticipating it for centuries. Sooner or later, someone would probe humanity's defenses." "But the risk," Zex Karoth pressed. "What if we had attacked in force before you revealed your capabilities?" "Then we would have revealed them sooner," Makoto said simply. "The Phantom Fleet has shadowed every major alien vessel that entered our space for the past 500 years. We could have disabled your entire invasion force before you fired a single shot. Then why wait? Why allow us to believe we had the upper hand?" Makoto's expression grew serious. "Because we wanted you to see both our strength and our restraint. Had we immediately crushed your fleet, the Empire would have been humiliated and eventually sought revenge. This way, we formed an alliance instead." Zex Karoth's crystalline form shifted in the Krelnar equivalent of a thoughtful nod. "Your species is unexpected." "We get that a lot." Makoto smiled. "Tell me," the Krelnar leader asked, "what other secrets does humanity keep? You've shown us some of your technology, but I sense there's more." Makoto laughed softly. "Of course there is. Just as I'm certain the Empire keeps secrets from us. The difference is we've accepted that fact as natural. Mistrust is hardwired into human psychology. It kept us alive during our most brutal centuries. Yet you speak of alliance and trust. Trust, but verify," Makoto quoted. "An ancient human diplomatic principle. We can be trusting allies while maintaining our defensive capabilities." Zex Karoth considered this, then asked the question that had bothered him since the confrontation began. "Why did your leaders smile when we threatened them?" The expression, what humans call a smirk, it was disturbing. "Ah." Makoto nodded. "That's a complex cultural response. When humans have prepared extensively for something and then face exactly what they expected, there's a certain satisfaction in it. That smile was 3,000 years in the making." As their meeting concluded, news was spreading throughout the galaxy. Humanity, the quiet species from the galactic backwater, had revealed itself to be a technological power equal to any of the ancient civilizations. More disconcertingly, they had apparently maintained this secret for millennia, while studying every other species in remarkable detail. The revelation sparked a wave of diplomatic initiatives, as civilizations throughout the galaxy suddenly sought to improve relations with the humans. Military intelligence agencies desperately tried to determine what other capabilities humanity might be hiding, while economic advisors calculated the impact of human matter conversion technology on galactic trade. Aboard Earth's orbital diplomatic center, President Reyes addressed her cabinet. "Phase 1 is complete," she announced. "The galaxy now recognizes our capabilities without us having to demonstrate our more extreme technologies." "And Phase 2? General Okafor asked. Reyes gestured to a holographic display showing hundreds of diplomatic requests from across the galaxy. "Integration," she said simply. "For 3,000 years, we've been the observers, the outsiders. Now we become full participants in galactic civilization, but on our terms, with our security guaranteed not by threats, but by mutual benefit." Admiral Chen raised her glass in a toast. "To humanity's grand strategy, 3 millennia of preparation for a war we never intended to fight." "And to peace," added Reyes, "maintained through understanding rather than fear." As their glasses clinked, somewhere in a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, Project EMP-8H continued its work, analyzing, predicting, and ensuring that humanity would never again be underestimated or threatened. The next 3,000 years promised to be very different from the last, and humanity would face them not with weapons drawn, but with a knowing smile and open hands. After all, they had been preparing for this moment since before most galactic civilizations had achieved spaceflight. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human influence had begun.